Okay, so I'm going to start by explaining myself in the best ego definition way I can possibly do, okay? I'm going to say, I had a magical journey, and I went through a long spiritual, adventure where I met various teachers, and I learned different techniques. And I did a lot of studying of consciousness and studying myself and teaching myself and then teaching others and then going back and learning again. And that is a little bit funny, the way that I just did that, okay? Because that was the way that an ego definition person wants to do it, because when we start talking about ourselves, we don't usually want to go on this long, this long description of how awesome we are. It's actually not something that's that comfortable for us. So ego definition people, though, I'm going to go right into it, and then when my health model comes up or my background comes up, we can just talk about that then if that happens. Because you guys are all mostly ego definition. Who's ego definition in here? Raise your hand. Okay, so everybody except for Jan and Ben. And people got their charts in front of them. If they do, that's good, because the ego is the little center that's underneath your G center, and it's above your solar plexus in human design. Human design is a system that Ra Uru Hu cognized some guy who went to an island off the coast of Spain, and he's a manifestor, and he downloaded some information, okay? And so it's pretty esoteric in that sense, but the amazing thing about human design is that it takes into account so many different systems, actually. It unifies a lot of things together, and it does have a lot to do with astrology and with the way that your physical energy functions through your chakras and in interaction with other people and their chakras. So, okay. The integrity of ego people, it's funny because we're the ones that people call egoic sometimes because we have the ego center, and actually we are the ones who are not egoic. So yeah, if you're noting for other people, you can make little notes. It's really easy for people to think that we're egoic because we don't function the same way as 70% of the population. We're only 30%, okay? 30%. And we have what they call integrity of ego, which means that we don't do stuff for recognition. We don't do stuff for money, fame, power, popularity. We don't do things for those reasons, actually. People without the ego center usually will do things quite often for some of those reasons, right? And they'll end up getting richer than us sometimes because that kind of drive to get some ego recognition does produce a lot of energy and actually does get a lot of recognition sometimes, It's like, look at me. We're not always doing that, and actually we're the ones who are supposed to be saying that because we have an integrity to what we're here to give that's not going to be about ourselves. It's actually even though it'll make us happy to do whatever we're here to do, of course we should be happy. We're not here to do it because of us, really. We're pretty purely of service, actually. So it's funny because we're not very good salespeople about ourselves usually, and we need to be a little bit better with that. We need to start practicing. We're going to do a little practice tonight, just a little bit. You notice how when I just give my description of myself, I was so general and I didn't go into specifics. There was a girl, we were at an open mic voice concert one time, my boyfriend and I, and a girl got up who was a teacher and just said, I'm whatever her name was, I do a lot of cool things, come and meet me here at this time every Monday and do this awesome thing with me. like, and it was like, my boyfriend was like, she has an ego center, doesn't she? Because she didn't want to go into like this fabulous glossy details about herself and how awesome she was and how it was actually like really great, you know, to do this thing with her. So she was like shooting herself in the foot a little bit because it does take some energy too. I mean, it takes some energy to promote yourself, right? And if you're not a generator, that can be a challenge. We do have willpower and we can will things to happen, and that can be a challenge too, because if we will things to happen and we don't actually have the physical energy to make them happen, especially us non-generators, then that can be like its own little little conflict, inner conflict, because you can make something happen by deciding with that center, and then if you didn't have the energy to actually do it, then you're going to be tired afterwards, or maybe sick, or maybe like worse, right? So I think, okay, so this is my magical little feeling about people with ego centers, because they come to me all the time and I do all these readings for people with ego centers, and it's only 30% of the population. That's why I had this class. You guys are only a percent, you know, like, I don't know, at least about half of the ones I've seen recently. A lot of times they're women, and a lot of times I think there was a past life of having some power, feminine power in the sense of magic, or being a witch that was burned at the stake or something. And because we live in a patriarchal situation, I'll explain how that happens, right? Because as an ego center, you have a certain amount of power because you have the power to decide something and make it happen or not. And that it's that manifesting kind of like willpower thing. And that is a power. And if you're not coming from a male perspective back in the dark ages of the patriarchy, then you were like target, I think. I think you were like, you know, we were up there like, yeah, I'm going against the grain here. Obviously going against the patriarchy. And so a lot of us got killed, and a lot of us are very afraid now.
Still going against the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, you would be still, because so a lot of us are really afraid now. And actually, yeah, because the reason why you have an ego center in your chart is because you already have past lives of service. Okay, so that's an interesting point. That was actually something that just came to me intuitively. I can't claim that as information that I researched. I just knew it when I was talking to people with ego centers. That's why they came into this lifetime able to take credit and be personally their small self and like experience that. Like, what's it like now to be just small Hillary or just small Catherine, you know, instead of being part of a large organization all the time and being part of a larger thing where you're doing service and you're giving away the credit to a bigger thing than yourself, which is what people without ego centers are supposed to do. There's a certain like vulnerability in the ego with people without ego centers. So if you give away the credit, then it's like you don't take on that burden of kind of being accountable for all this stuff, you know? And that makes it easier. And for us with ego centers, we're supposed to say, yeah, I did it. Because people quite often are going to say anyway, they're going to point their finger at us and be like, you did it, you know, because we have a certain like weight or feeling of power to us that especially the people in authority, especially if you're like working at a job and you've a boss that does not have an ego center, those people can feel us coming, like they can spot us out of a crowd, because there's that feeling of like that we're not entirely subject to their authority, because we will make decisions based on ourselves always. We're never going to just do what somebody says just because they said it. We're going to do it because it's either the right thing or we want it or we think it's good, like it'll make us happy or make people happy. We're not going to do it just because somebody higher up told us. Like, you know, it's that whole dilemma of like somebody tells you to launch the missile or something. We're the ones who are not going to launch the missile and are probably going to get killed or get like put in jail for not doing it. But because it would be that important to us to not do something that we would because as soon as we do something that we feel is wrong, it's like we can't get away from it. It just keeps like going forever. We're just always thinking and feeling and going back to that thing because there's a lot of guilt already, and there's a lot of like feeling. I mean, we definitely had all that time doing service before, so we know it's like we're still in that mode and we're still trying to do service. But the point is now that we're supposed to be like making ourselves happy, actually. We're supposed to be like our little self. Because when we do that, we actually do naturally do service. So when we do like whatever makes Sherlyn happy, or whatever makes Lauren happy, or whatever makes Catherine happy, it's like your little child self inside gets to like dance around, right? And then they naturally like spread goodwill and you know, like heap glitter on everyone around them because we have the ego-centered thing where we're just naturally going to like to give, okay? So it's how can we receive? It's always more and more how can we receive, because the more we can receive, the more we're going to naturally give to others around us.
Are the males different, or are they?
This is like basic principles.
Okay.
It's going to be different with different kinds of, like if you're a manifestor, projector, or generator, it's going to be different if you're a man or a woman. Of course, there's like different things that are going to happen with all those different subtypes, you know? I just know that with all, especially the women with the ego centers who come to me, there was a position where like they had power and were therefore targeted or something in the past because people can sense they have power. It's pretty hard to not sense people with an ego center have some like willpower, like, and that willpower makes us have this ability to get really angry at people if things are not the way that we think they should be, and people sense that too, and they like it can sometimes find us intimidating at the first meeting, intimidating or like unfriendly or something. That actually is a power though that can be used for holding boundaries and for manifesting things and making stuff happen and actually being our own authority and being in charge and everything. And that's just that, you know, society we live in where the authority figures are kind of feared, right? So if you have power, there's like a little bit of you're a little suspect. And especially if you have unconventional power, if you're not in the conventional roles of being, you know, at the top of a corporation or something, right? So I feel like a lot of us feel guilty because we either did something that we feel was wrong in some past life, or we were convinced by authorities that we did something wrong. And therefore, like against the patriarchy or something, and so therefore wrong. And then we have all this guilt now if we even do something that's like a slight infringement from our code of ethics, okay? Like we're the people that have like the code of ethics for how we act to other people. Like if we say, like I said I was going to hang out with Jan today before class and I didn't make it, and so I felt super guilty because that's the kind of thing that if I gave my word, then I want to fulfill it. That's like, for me, my code of honor, right? And that's why if we mess up with little things like that, we kind of like self-flagellate a lot, and that's not actually helpful. But that's why I think that emotional processing and belief processing for us especially has to be around guilt and shame a lot of the time. Around guilt, because get rid of all the guilt because it's shackling all your power down. Like if you feel like you don't have power, it's because you're not using it because you feel guilty. And here's my shameless self-plug, and I do emotional and belief processing for people. And that's like the main thing that I'm super here to do, actually, besides teaching dance and stuff. So don't be scared, because if you haven't done that with me, a lot of people here have, and they can tell you what it's like.
Yes.
And
That's awesome.
because we have integrity of ego, it's like we're super paranoid about hurting people. Okay, right? Everybody's like,
Yeah.
Because then you feel guilty, right?
Yeah, because we will feel guilty if we do anything that hurts people. So my story about that is that when I was in high school, I had my own dance company. Okay, I went like blazing into high school and was like, "You don't have any dance company here? I'm gonna do one." And so then I forced all my peers to see me as an authority figure, and and they all had to come to school at 7:30 in the morning too, every day, and run around the room and then put together all these dances and do all these performances, okay? Somehow it worked, but I definitely had a couple times where people mutinied on me, right? Because they were my peers and they're in high school. And at the time, I remember feeling really guilty a lot. Like, I would always think that I was being mean or something. I knew I was doing the best I could, but I also felt like I was kind of like taking heads, you know? And I had that attitude, you know, that I had to take heads, kind of. And I think it's interesting because when we look back at it now, of course, this is a long time ago, so I'm sure the memory is rosier than actuality in some ways, but most of the women from that dance company are friends with me on Facebook and send me messages all the time about how it was like their favorite part of their entire life and stuff. So that's my story about us ego-centered people thinking that we are like hurting people and stuff. It's like, but look, I provided something for them that they couldn't have had otherwise, and they were actually all really happy about it in the end. So that's something to think about for yourself as far as when you feel like you're like taking your willpower out on people or something, like willing things to happen that could hurt people or that isn't like being receptive enough or something, you know? So we don't do stuff for recognition, and that confuses people without the ego centers. So, and we can even use, since we have a couple people without ego centers here tonight, we can ask them questions sometimes if we want. But it's like a lot of the people, so 70% of people don't have ego centers, so we're kind of a target for projection of all the egoic stuff. Because, you know, how a society is really not structured the way that, I mean, it's not really healthy, right? So people, there's all sorts of egoic stuff going on, right, underneath the surface. And we feel it a lot because we're the ones that have the ability to kind of see that egoic stuff, and then we get blamed for it. People are like, you know, saying that we're the ones that are doing stuff for our own gain or something. And it's like really ironic because we're usually the ones that actually would, if we were in charge of people, for instance, always make sure that those people are taken care of. Okay, like we're not the people that are gonna like ditch everybody for like a higher salary or something, right? We're like the people that if we are on a team, we're gonna make sure our team is like all get higher salaries, right? So we do things because we want to or because it's the right thing to do. Oprah is excuse me, non-ego-centered people, because I'm gonna use an example of, you know, what can go wrong without the ego center. Oprah is a great example of success, right? But she also has kind of that like feeling like when you look at her magazine of like, look at me, right? And she makes tons and tons of money from that because she does not have the ego center actually. So what she's supposed to be doing is giving away credit, right? And giving away like her kind of like putting money and some of her success towards greater causes. And she does do some of that, and I think that's why her rep kind of survives all of it, right? Also, she's not a conventional looking role model, so that really helps actually, because people can relate to her, and it's like, it's actually still kind of anti-patriarchal for her to be one of the richest people in the world right now. But we are supposed to put our picture and our name on everything we do. We are the ones that are supposed to probably be in charge of ourselves or have our own businesses. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying that if we put our picture and our name on things, there's a vibration of integrity that other people see or feel, and that is why they come to us. In fact, I've had experiences of people walking in this. I had this great client who walked in this center, saw the flyer that they had that actually my picture's not on anymore. Because, by the way, they'll always find a way to cut out the ego center person as fast as possible, like off the thing. But she saw my picture, she looked at all the pictures, saw my picture, and came to me. Had no idea who I was or what I did or anything. It's like amazing, right? So I'm going to write it down. You got to put your name and your picture on your work. When I used to be a younger massage therapist in a town of like kind of pedophilic men, I was really worried about putting my picture on my advertisement, right? But as soon as I did it, though, finally, it actually brought tons more people to me, and they were not the people I was afraid of getting at all. We all have a contract with, like, if you're a healer of any kind, we have a contract with people from before this life that are supposed to work with us. So it's not about, like, that we have to, like, hustle to, like, make ourselves attractive to people, actually. It's just about being available to meet the people that are there for us. And that's maybe a good, important thing for people at the Ego Center to know, since we really hate putting all that effort into promoting ourselves. If we do put the effort into promoting ourselves, then we're going to end up with a more healthy sense of self, actually, in a certain way. And probably, you know, people are going to see it more. But we don't have that drive behind it to be like the richest person in the world, usually. That's not usually us. That's not the reason why we do stuff. And so when we do stuff, it's almost like we need to have our motivation at the forefront, like, so we know why it is, like, so we really feel it when we're doing it. Because otherwise, I think there's a vibration of like, oh, they don't really want me, you know? And we don't want that to happen if you're doing any kind of your own business or any kind of thing where you have to market yourself, you know? So we are the people, though, that people are going to ask our opinion when they're not sure if something's okay or not, maybe. Like, or they want an opinion of somebody who's got integrity, you know? So it's important that it's a lot of this stuff is in terms of the Ego Center, there's some of it's projected, meaning it needs to be invited. So when we do get invitations to give our opinion, it's important to just do it straight from that integrity and not, like, worry about what it is that you're saying to people. Like, just tell the truth, because that's what we're here to do, is tell the truth. And people will know that it's our truth and that it's not like we're trying to hurt anybody or anything like that, you know? Okay, so we're kind of here to, like, experience what it's like to be our little small self. Everybody, we're all going towards enlightenment. We're all going towards the big self, right? But those of us who have the Ego Center have to also enjoy being ourself, whoever she is or he is. So it's not that we don't have ego issues. We do, just like everybody does. We do have you know, that need to expand beyond the small self too. But we have to kind of, like, receive in the credit, receive in the importance into our little self, because that will actually empower other people around us. Because we will empower them too if we're empowered. Okay, so we need to process our guilt and shame, feel it, accept it, and love it. Let's talk about the gates in the ego center. We have 26, 51, 21, and 40 in the ego center. So gate 26 is the taming power of the great.
51, 21, and 40. 21,
Surprisingly, they're not very loud, huh? Or is it just my ears? So the taming power of the great is all about being tested by circumstances. Okay? You're going to see a theme with our ego thing. People with the ego center are the ones that are able to like take all of the rest of civilization through disaster if we have to. Right? If like somebody is having a major problem, they call us usually and they're like, not always, but like we have that vibe of like people can count on us. Like we will go in and take the baby out of the burning building kind of thing.
That's so true.
It's not like that we're like, you know, we're not always like, oh, I'm a hero, but it's like people have that feeling of that we will protect you if you ask us to. Or is it
Like Dan wasn't raised around little kids, but there were two situations where I panicked and I didn't know what to do, and he knew instantly what to do.
with the
You know,
kids? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just there's a calmness in emergencies.
Yeah,
all.
he just.
Yeah. It's like if there's an emergency, we're more likely to kind of like shine actually to kind of like be able to really deal with it as opposed to people who freak out in emergencies and like go catatonic or whatever, right? We're not those people. We're the people that are like,
Yeah.
okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, like, and I'm going in here.
Yeah.
So my
so
daughter
true.
has that 26 and it's purple.
Yeah.
So like, is that why everybody comes and just kind of like dumps all their problems on her?
Maybe. There's probably other factors involved too.
I mean, I've
but
got like my 50-year-old women friends dumping on my 17-year-old daughter.
Really?
Yeah.
Is she a
makes me
generator
mad.
or what is she?
She is a manifesting generator.
So she has kind of like a lot of energy. So there's like that like
Yes.
sparkle about manifesting
Yes.
generators. People notice them.
It's
And
funny
she's
said that.
able to be flexible and like move between things and stuff. So that's one of the reasons too. Like people can sense that manifesting generators can kind of like deal with a lot of stuff at once. But did she have the connection all the way through from 26 to
44.
26 to 44 is all black.
yeah? So that is.
Oh, okay.
We're about to talk about that one. That's the power to smell a rat. So when people ask her if somebody's okay or not, she's gonna know. Like if you can trust people or not. So the taming power of the great is about being tested by circumstances, holding firm to ideals and integrity in the face of challenge. This is a horrible pen.
That's so funny.
So these are all aspects of the I Ching, and everybody has to deal with them at different times because 64 aspects of consciousness, basically. Like, this is how consciousness moves. It goes through here, then it does this. And so we all are dealing with all of these aspects our whole life, you know, our whole day. But people who have the ego center, who have this particular gate, for instance, are going to be better at holding to their ideals and integrity in the face of challenge. So challenges that threaten to break resolve. those situations test people to let go of their ideas and beliefs and use their inner fortitude to stretch beyond habit. Okay, so that's why the people with the ego centers can be really good in emergencies, because they are it's a little bit easier in a certain sense to like drop the ego stuff, because there's that integrity of ego, like there's the energy to the ego, so it's like, screw whatever I believe, let's just deal with the situation right now, you know? 51 is the next gate in the ego, and it is the arousing. This is not how it sounds. This is actually not sexual at all. This is more about sudden and unexpected lightning and thunder. So there's an electrical storm feeling to it, reflexive alarms that go off and shock us, and we're taken unaware, and that lightning and thunder feeling releases tension in the atmosphere. So it actually is kind of a relief afterwards. This is a quality of something that happens. Everybody will notice, like even if you don't have an ego center, you'll notice that there's this quality to life, right, that has happened sometimes. But there's fear, and there's like the feeling of getting a wake-up call where you have to look with honesty at your life and what provoked the lightning. And that's the thing that probably people at the ego center are good at, is looking at life with honesty. After shocking events. And it could just be, you know, the weather, or it could be like some really huge thing in your life. It depends. The next gate in the ego is 21, which is biting through.
Which is what? I'm sorry.
Biting through.
Fighting through?
Yeah. So as in, like, they give the example in that book that, you know, if you have like a bad knife as opposed to having a surgeon's scalpel, that you really, in biting through situations, you need to just take the surgeon's scalpel and go through and be done with it. You know, like whatever it is you're trying to cut out, it's not going to help to be like kind of biding your time and not using your sharp instrument, okay? So the thing about biting through is like doing what needs to be done, taking swift action. If radical reforms need to be made, this kind of thing provokes anxiety for people. So this is the thing, is when these kinds of things happen, the people with the ego centers are the ones that are good at dealing with it and helping other people deal with it. So everybody else gets really anxious or scared or whatever, and the ego center person is like, let's do it, I know what to do. Let's just do, you know. Unless you do the whole job, you won't see the root of the distress. So it's that kind of like courage to just go all the way instead of, and that's coming from that willpower, you know? And 40 is deliverance. And this is the gate of, there's been a bunch of tension mounting and problems, and then all of a sudden it rains, and it's like, yay, because your crops will finally get watered, and it's that feeling of deliverance from a long dry spell. So there's, during that, so this is interesting, right? Because all of the rest of these gates are also about stressful situations, okay? Deliverance, like winning the lottery, can also be a stressful situation, right? And some people lose it when they win the lottery, right? And they make really bad decisions and stuff. So that's another place where you need awareness and groundedness. It's an unburdening And so things need to be, people need to stay aware, grounded, acknowledge hurts, heal them, move on, move quickly and decisively into the new order of things. And it's usually the ego-centered people who can do that well. So if you feel like I'm boosting your self-esteem tonight, I am. Because that's like the whole point, is that we need to understand how awesome we are. So the ego-centered people are the ones who can kind of stay grounded and maybe maintain compassion still in the aftermath of the storm. You can see how that's hard. These are all for difficult situations for people in general, and that's why we use that ego willpower for those situations. Notice you're not really supposed to be using your willpower to like put on a performance like I was doing. I was using my willpower to put on performances when I didn't have the physical energy to do it. This is more like when everybody's just, homeless because there was a tsunami. It's like we're the people that can will everything to happen still. Like we can survive, actually. So if people have told you that you're not good at surviving, it's not true. Okay, so when you connect these gates, people get different connections. So all you had to have was I think you only had one connection was all, or maybe it was more than one planet in that center for it to light up and for you to have ego definition. And there's 3 different connections you can have from that. So most people don't have all 3. We'll start with the one that I've got first that Dan's also got. It's called the channel of the transmitter. So channel of the transmitter is 26 to 44, and these people can smell a rat. That means if people are okay or not. You can tell whether there's integrity in other people or not. This is one of the reasons why I do things that people say that girls aren't supposed to do, like go to the bank late at night and stuff. I always feel like I know if there's somebody not okay there. Like I just know, and I can stay away from them. But I know it's a little maybe delusional, but it's also part of that I'm working with my strengths, actually. And if somebody is like, so this is the thing, actually, let's get deep with this one, because, people will trust a lot of people that shouldn't be trusted, right? You guys notice that? And you gotta go with your first instinct. Especially if you have this connection, you gotta use it and go with your first instinct. Because if you have this connection, you will know if that person is not okay. And then maybe other people will convince you afterwards that the person is okay, and then you'll go down a whole journey with that person that you wouldn't have done before. And then you'll come to the same conclusion at the end, that the person's not okay and not worth your energy. Okay? So that's the thing, is if someone's like totally on a roller coaster of life and like just gonna be like chaos for you, you can smell it. Okay? You're laughing because of Dan.
Well, yeah, because that's why we stay away from my family.
Yeah.
Because they're all rats.
So this channel is also the entrepreneurial connection. And this is funny, right? Because people with the Ego Center don't like to promote themselves. So we've got a contradiction here. If you've got this one like me, then you have this kind of like knowledge of how to promote yourself, and at the same time you don't really want to do it. So if you use that, you can have your own successful business. Of course, you have to work with what type are you, what's your authority, what's your strategy, all that stuff too. You have to work with that. Because for instance, I'm a projector, so if I go out and like do some networking thing that generators could do, I would be like completely exhausted afterwards and not get any business from it actually. So teaching classes on the other hand is good for me in terms of my entrepreneurial thing, because I'm a projector especially. For manifesting generator, they want to go like be all over the internet and do all this like marketing stuff and have commercials and I mean, I don't know, but that's like something that would completely exhaust me. So, so that's the entrepreneurial connection, and these people with this connection definitely do not like to work for other people. We really don't like working for other people. So just remember that, because it's not that you have to work for yourself, but if you're working for other people, they gotta have integrity. You cannot be under someone who doesn't have integrity if you have this connection. Because it's hell.
So does that have to be fully connected to from 44 to 26?
Yeah,
Yes.
Sometimes it's half. What's the half?
What's the half?
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. If you have half a connection, it's either red or it's black. If it's red, it's like there's that quality is in your body, in your energy system, but it's not in your personality. So you kind of don't know that you have it. If it's black, then it's in your personality, and you kind of feel that's part of you, but it's not in your body. Now, this is the thing, if it doesn't go all the way through, then you have the feeling of really doing that's something that you do, but it's like you're still developing it. You're still perfecting that.
That's the black or the red?
If it doesn't go all the way through.
Yeah.
Like you're still perfecting that quality, and actually that can be very exciting and like a fun challenge and like really a place where you learn a lot of stuff. Because we'll talk about that, because see, this is one of my connections, so I just rely on this when I don't think about it, right? You don't think about the connections you have, they're just part of your personality. If you go and you have a half connection, like I do with this other one, Channel of Community, let's talk about that one.
Excuse me, Hillary.
Yeah.
What is the red thing again?
The red is your body, your design, your energy system, how it works. It's not conscious. Okay? It's like how I went through my whole life not knowing I was a projector, because projector is really a function of design. It's a function of my body, my energy system, the red. The red is something, it has to do with when you were conceived, but it has to do with Mercury a certain number of days before you were born. It's a really obscure astrological
And
thing.
so the black means that.
Black is your personality. It's what you know about yourself.
Okay.
You're very, you know that, and if you look at your profile number, the first number is the one that you know about yourself. It's the archetype that you know about yourself. Like you're a 1-3, Lauren, so your first number is 1, like me. So we know that we're the investigator. But unconsciously, we're the martyr. And our life is about learning more and more as we go along how we're actually the martyr. So that applies to, you're 1-3 too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Catherine, we got 1-3s here. So that applies to any other profile number too. The first one is what you know about yourself, and the next one is the unconscious, the design part.
So
So
then
what-
you said, I'm sorry, Jan.
That's okay.
Actually, mine's red and black both. From half
Mm-hmm.
the thing. From
So then it's
26
a
to
full
44.
connection. You treat it like it's a full connection, but part of that connection is unconscious for you. That's all.
Okay, so
It's still, if it goes all the way through, it's a connection for you. It's part of your personality. That's it. But if it's half red, half black, then part of it is an unconscious kind of feeling for you.
What was
So,
the 2 and the 4?
the 2-4 would be the hermit opportunist.
And then what's 6?
6 is a role model.
That's
So,
Darren.
So, The opportunist, by the way, I like to call it the social networker instead because I don't like how it sounds. Opportunist is not actually.
Sounds negative, huh?
Yeah, it sounds, and they're not. None of them are like negative. You know, it's just the way human design, the way that they describe things. If you look on the internet, it all sounds kind of negative. Actually, I think. Okay, so let's talk about the competitive channel, which I have half of. So I'll describe my experience of having half of that connection. 51 to 25. It's competition. So I feel like I'm learning more and more about competition in my life, that it's a place where I keep learning. This connection is about competitiveness and empowering it. By being empowered to be competitive, you're also empowering other people to be competitive, because the nature of the ego center is actually empowering other people. So it's a projected channel. It has to be invited. So you can't, it's like you can't compete unless you're invited to the competition. And I feel some strife in this area as far as competition in my life, because I had that half connection. It's like I haven't totally figured it out. And channel of initiation is what it's called. That's a name, channel of initiation. And the reason why is because it also has this awesome part to it. It's not just about competition, it's also about, it's like you're invited to be yourself. And that's how you actually compete, is by being your true self. And that means following your strategy, following your type and your authority and stuff too, is how they say, is how you would truly be yourself. But also just being yourself, being your full personality, that's how you compete. It's not by trying to be like somebody else or be better than them or have a better deal than them or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this channel also empowers other people to be themselves fully. And that's why it's also called the shaman or priestess channel. And I feel that that's definitely something I've been learning in my lifetime, is how to really empower people to be their full selves, like feel really good about themselves. It's called that because they initiate others into being themselves. So there is one other connection. There's one other channel in the ego center, and that's to the emotional from the ego. And this is the channel of community. And this is another really cool ego integrity channel.
Which one is that?
It is 40 to 37, channel of community. So the channel of the transmitter was from the ego to the intuition. The channel of the competitive priestess was from the ego to the heart center, I believe. And the channel of community is from the ego to the emotional.
If it's just white,
then they don't have it.
They don't have. Okay.
So if they don't have an emotional center, if you guys don't have an emotional center, then you probably do not have this channel. You might have half of it, but you won't have the whole thing. That's why people have half a channel, is because they don't have the definition of the other center.
Okay.
So this is about the tribal bargain. This is kind of awesome, actually, because it's like where economy came from. It's like, I'll do this for you if you do this other thing for me. Okay? And it's actually based on what's good for the community. It's not actually about what's good for the individual. That's why these people can really help communities, actually. It's awesome because I was looking at it and it says, I mean, these are the people that honor their handshakes, you know? Like, they give their word, and then it's like they're gonna, Lauren's got it, huh? Got this channel. So they give their word, and they're gonna do what they said. The really cool thing is that when people get together, work together, live together in a group, these people support the community with the things that money can't buy. That's what they say. So there's so many things that money can't buy, and when you actually truly live in a community, right? Not the community, not. Let's not pretend like we live in a community right now, because we don't, right? When you actually truly live in community, then there's a whole bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with money. It's all about what can I do for you, what can you do for me, how can we keep it all equal, how can we make sure that the whole group survives and is successful and is doing well, you know? So that is pretty awesome too. So those are the 3 ego-centered channels.
Isn't there, I think there's 4 though, right?
There should only be 3, I think.
No, there's one to the throat.
Like number
Oh.
21.
Oh, I missed one. Wait, that's 21 to 45?
Yeah.
That's the one that we did. That's the one that we just did.
Oh, I
That's
thought we did 40
competition.
to 37.
Sorry, that's
Oh.
competitive. Wait.
I had 51 to 25 was competition.
Yeah.
21 to 45. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Totally. 21 to 45. I totally missed that one. Let's look it up. Let's look at the cards. Is it here? Okay, so 21.
Oh, there's 21. Okay. Yeah, he's half.
21 is biting through. That's what we talked about before.
That's so cool.
So biting through is all about getting the job done. 45. Is decrease, I believe.
Gathering together.
Oh, nope, it's 40. Is it 41 or 45? 45, okay. 41 is decrease. 45 is it holding together? Oh, gathering together, okay. Water travels for hundreds of miles and sometimes begins as a tiny stream. The mightiest river is formed in this way. Finally, it carves its course through stone. Okay, so joining with others, creatively resolving all kinds of challenges, and being patient with differences. Okay, so you've also got the energy of the ego to the throat. So there's a communicating, doing what's necessary, and gathering together. Let's look it up real fast. 25.
20. Is it 21 to 45, right?
21 to 45.
That's good.
So humandesign.com, I think, is the one that I usually look for the connections on. And this internet's going to be a problem for me today. Okay, channel of materialism. Okay, so it's not how it sounds. It's not like that you're materialistic if you have it. It's power and influence of the tribe over human affairs. So I have this or I don't have this. The tribe wants 2 things, money and a secure and reliable commitment from people to be tribal together. So materialism is the way, and what really satisfies is putting money to work. So this is the channel that's developed a single business model of barter or village trade. It's another bartering kind of channel, like the last one that we talked about. People with this channel have the education and control to understand and direct financial dealings. Ooh, so we want them to help us with money. And those kinds of money-making enterprises succeed by requiring support of many, require the support of the whole tribe. And the tribe and the person have to be knowledgeable and trustworthy and keep their part of the deal. So once again, the point is that our word, that we're going to keep our word, right? And if the tribe doesn't keep their word with that connection, I would think that would be pretty a problem for those people. Like, because they're kind of in a sacred contract with society, which sounds a little messy to me, but because society doesn't always hold up their end of the deal. But so that person, that kind of person with that channel might want to make sure that they're in the right community, that they're in the right group. They would be careful who they're around, probably.
That's why he had to find me.
Oh, Dan. Yeah.
Because
actually,
he was in the wrong with his last
Yeah.
two fiancés were wrong.
Mhm. Yeah.
They weren't the right ones for him.
Okay, I'm going to suggest a book for everybody because of this whole patriarchal thing that I talked about before. I'm going to suggest that everybody read Unplugging the Patriarchy by Lucia Renee, if I haven't already told you to read it.
It's an excellent book.
I don't know if Lucia Renee has an ego center, but the important thing is that she's describing a journey through, like, kind of really understanding the patriarchy and where it came from and what it's about and what it's trying to do and how it's completely dissolving and it's over. And that has a lot to do with our past lives, usually, as far as people with, especially women with ego centers. Because if you were feminine and got killed or something for helping people, if you're a light worker, if you're any kind of person doing something for the good of the group, then, which would be all of us, we probably were all doing something for the good of the group in some way. I know personally that, like, I got killed at least a couple times. Does anybody else have any past life memories in this? Yeah? You know that you were killed a couple times. Does anybody have any stories they want to share at all?
I could
Yeah.
share. I was trying to remember something that happened when I was 5 years old. So I went to this massage therapist that deals with pressure points. And I was trying to go back to remember something that happened at 5. And she didn't say anything, so this is why this is weird. But she started pressuring on the pressure points, and this life was unfolding. And I was like, what the heck's going on? Of this Indian girl. And every time they would push something like that felt good, I'd see something good. And every time she would work on something that was painful, I'd see something bad.
Wow.
But this whole thing, and it was just really bizarre. But what happened toward the end, I don't know if because it's a long, drawn-out story, but what happened to the end, she was only 17. She was Native American, and she was in this, and I was trying to look this up if they had this place where the uniforms, they were blue uniforms, and they were in like a camp, but they were
That's the
trying
army.
to train, not but teach the American Indians,
Mm-hmm.
right? And something happened where she was connected with animals, and she was mute. Now, how do you see that? How does that happen? I mean, I'm like, am I nuts or what?
No.
Well, what happened was she was only 17, somewhere around that, 17, 18, and her job was to deal with the animals. So this colonel guy said, go get the horse. So she got the horse, and the horse jumped him, and he came over and said, you did something, didn't you? Took her, shot her in the head, threw her on the ground,
Oh my God.
and all of a sudden I just saw light, and it was it. So bizarre.
Yeah.
I was like, and then she said, she looked at me, she goes, sometimes you have past life experience. Are you, okay, so was that what that was? Because am I crazy? It was the weirdest thing. It was really
That's
interesting.
awesome, though.
Yeah, but even though it's super awesome, it's not uncommon, though. I would tell you, probably a couple of us in here have had past life memories for sure. And mine came through intentionally going to past life regression classes or doing past life regression. But the important thing about that, it's not that you have to know of all your past lives or get stuck in the past or anything. That would not be good, actually. But if you know that you were killed for something in particular, then you can start to understand, okay, what is it I'm here to do this life? Because a lot of people with the ego center have some kind of ability to help people or heal people and are remaining undercover in some way. Like, we're keeping ourselves under the radar. And it's because we were literally killed so many times that you just instinctively stop putting yourself out there. Like, you don't go, woohoo, come over here, Like, especially because it just was really not safe in certain time periods, right? In certain cultures, like this now, I've seen a bunch of messages going out to light workers recently that are like, it is safe now. It is safe to do, like they're intentionally telling us, you're safe now. You can do whatever it is you came here to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like everything that I held back about my whole life.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm tired of hiding. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, all this time it was that fear saying, oh, well, it's going to be bad, you know? They're going to
Yeah.
really get me. And
Yeah.
now
because
it's like, well, I
there's
don't
probably
think
good reason for that too, you know? And
that'll happen.
yeah. And feeling the fear now in the body, separate from the story, is what needs to happen so that you just don't even have to, you release it that way, and it doesn't even have to be a factor keeping you in the same story over and over again anymore, right? And then you just get out of the way and you do what you came here to do. Your divine job, your dharma, right? So, for sure, there's usually stories in the past of, like, we didn't fit in, or we got killed, or we, like we didn't fit in so much we got killed, or we had to operate under the radar, or in some darkness, almost to the point where we might have convinced ourselves that we were dark, you know? That there's that darkness thing. And then when people project their egoic stuff on us, it's easy to kind of like see ourselves in a bad light, I think. And that's funny because our darkness is usually kind of more right up front. You know, it's not like some deep dark secret or something underneath, you know. We don't usually have that many secrets, actually. I don't think. I think we're pretty, that's our ego integrity, is it's like, here it is, it's all here, you know. So we do need to dissolve our issues with authority, I think. I think we need to do belief work on ourselves about authority because, you know, so we all have problems with authority because we're supposed to be our own authority or whatever, that's fine, but still, like, we're here to, on planet Earth is a learning planet, right? We're here to get over any resistances we have. So if we dissolve our problems with authority, what will probably happen is we'll stop having to work for people that we don't like anymore and end up being the boss ourselves in some way. So, so we do want to learn how to be part of the group and fit in that sense of like feeling okay about it, feeling okay about our kind of like just being part of that group. And once we're okay with it, we're probably going to end up being the leader. That's what generally happens with us because we're supposed to be leaders, actually. Because think about it. You don't want a leader who doesn't have ego integrity, actually. You know, like that's the number one thing people would probably ask for in a leader. It's not that people without the ego center can't be leaders, because they can. It's just, like for instance, Obama is a projector with only 2 centers. He has the root and the throat, right? And he doesn't have the ego. But that could be kind of a problem for him, I think, right? Because he has run into some problems as far as, like, being, like, saying something and not following through on it, right? Because if ego center people said something, we would just, like, kill ourselves before we would not do it. I don't mean that literally. But, so, and it's really fun. I think this is a little tangent, you guys, but I think the Obama thing is hilarious because he's a projector, so he's literally reflecting the entire American populace. He's taking in the whole energy. Watch how his hair became gray during his presidency.
Yes.
He's taking in the energy of all of America. And the only 2 things he's here to do are to get stuff done.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just confused. To get stuff done and to communicate. Right? That's what he's here to do. Like, so he's doing it, but it might kill him. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Okay, so we are the ones who get blamed for stuff or get made examples of. We're the ones that are like the example when everyone's doing something wrong. and the authority figure is like, oh, well, I saw that you did it or whatever, and it's like, everybody's like, yeah, well, yeah. Because they're all doing it or whatever, like, we're all doing it, and maybe the ego-centered person just doesn't feel bad about it because they kind of, it goes in line with their ideals in some way. That's the thing, is we'll do what goes in line with our principles usually, okay? We're not going to do something that goes against our principles no matter what. So, if we're doing something wrong, it's because it went with our principles, and that's why we're kind of visible, I think. You know, it's like we're just like right out there. People see us, the boss sees us, because we're acting in line with our principles, so we're kind of like, who cares, you know? Like, it's kind of like we're not going to tiptoe around and do the whole, like, little kid game that people do with their authority figures, right? So, so if we dissolve our authority issues, then we're going to end up being in positions of authority, probably. So that's the biggest thing, I think, for us to know. And that we are here in some way to lead groups, or so not just our own business, but to lead groups, maybe, like different groups that you're a part of. If you are a part of your group, you still have to follow your strategy. So, like, if you're a manifestor, you still have to inform, projectors still have to be invited, and generators still have to respond. But quite often what will happen is that people will end up, like, I was vice president of student government, and the president got so stressed out. This is, like, what the authority figures, you know, take in the energy of the whole group, actually. That's what we always do. So they can only make decisions based on, there's a certain amount of, like, how you can just make decisions based on your group, kind of. In the sense of being an authority figure, you're like the whole group is sending their energy towards you. So when the president went to Hawaii, I ended up as the president. And so I was invited in that way, and I was like, I wasn't like, I didn't want to be the president, right? We're not the ones that are like, yeah, I want to be the president, okay? But since I was in there, I ended up being the president. That's the kind of thing that happens to us a lot. And then we end up as a leader, and if you're a projector, that means you have super lots of stress because it's all the energy's coming at you, right? If you're like a manifesting generator, then maybe you deal with it better. Like but so that's a good thing to think of as far as if you're in groups that at some point you could end up being leader. And so to kind of think of how would you lead this group ideally, you know? Because in many ways we're leaders in different areas of life usually. So, and that's usually where our strengths are, and that's because then people can trust us too. But there's that anger intimidation factor. Let's talk about that. Because the ego center has a certain manifestor quality to it, because of the willpower, because there's power there's personal power to decide.
Anger and what?
Intimidation.
There is an anger / intimidation factor. That's what I call it, because people look at us and they know, I mean, they might feel there's some power there and that it's intimidating, okay? On the other side, it could be like they've seen us get mad. If we get mad, it's like all over, right? Because if an ego-centered person gets mad, they have tons of willpower and ability to really, like, you know, throw some crap around if they need to. So that's the problem, is to kind of, like, process that anger and be on top of yourself and, like, not respond out of anger to people, like, kind of be, you know, you can respond out of anger, just make sure that what you're saying is what you would say when you're not angry. But, but when you're angry, especially if you're a manifestor, then you're in your not self, right? And anger is just an emotion, just like fear and guilt, and it just can be felt, accepted, and loved, and in the body, separate from the story, okay? It's not another story. So, people can get kind of like a little weird about us. I think that eventually they end up liking us. I think it's like a thing they see at the beginning. It's like a beginning thing. Because we do have the power to hold boundaries. And if people are going to be all weird, and they're going to do weird stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We're the people that are going to go, no. Nope. Fit yourself in here or go out there. You know? It's like, none of this.
But I'm the one that's doing that.
Right. Oh, you're the one who's doing this?
Mhm.
Well, then, that's not really totally true, but
Because that's what I like. That's fun.
yeah, but
Not
you,
being in the boundaries. Being out of the box. That's fun.
yeah, but that's, we kind of worked on that. That's, you're gonna, you let me know how it goes, because that you're saying is kind of going, there's an internal conflict there. You're going against yourself in a certain way, you know? Because you can feel it. You know that you're supposed to hold boundaries.
Well, sometimes with the group.
Yeah.
With my little group.
Yeah, it's not like we can never have fun. It's just that when you're with a group, you're gonna, you know, you're gonna keep people from being weird. I mean, like, weird, not as in unconventional, as in, like, you know, bringing a gun weird. Like, like,
Yeah, I do have.
as in
weird
mentally ill weird,
seniors.
you know? Or doing stuff that's inappropriate, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, that's true. They do that all the time.
Yeah, it's
Mine.
different. Okay, so that's a good thing for me to elaborate on more, because, you know, I wouldn't call any of us conventional, actually. That wouldn't be a word that I would use first. And definitely, we should have fun, because that would be making our little small self happy. But having fun is different than shirking boundary holding responsibility. You should be able to do both. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We do both.
Yeah.
But everybody else is still, there goes Lauren again. Even though me and my residents are just awesome, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you probably just don't, you have a certain amount of power that you don't have to worry about a certain level of safety that a lot of people are worried about. You know?
Yeah.
Like for instance, I was in a dorm in Iowa. I was not worried, right? We're in Iowa, whatever. But all of the women around me are freaked out because people are breaking into the dorms at night, okay? And I'm like, so it's like, to me, it's like, okay, so some boys decided to make a prank or something. It was not scary to me at all. In fact, I knew that if somebody came into my room at night, I would wake up and I would probably immediately scream bloody hell at them and throw things at them until they got scared and left. Because, like, I just have a reflex to be really scary sometimes if I need to be. Right? That's something we have as the Ego Center. And
She's saying yeah.
so there's like a certain lack of fear in a certain way with us
Yeah.
that other
I
people
noticed
don't
that.
have. Other people have like some like severe safety concerns usually. Like everything's about safety. And with us it's like, no, I'm not scared about my personal safety usually. You know, there's like a certain comfort in knowing like it's gonna be okay, right? But so that makes us the courageous ones who do. We have to be careful because we don't want to do stupid stuff, right? You don't want to like get like deluded, you know, in your own ego integrity. Like you're, yeah, bring them to me, you know. But all of the little girls in that dorm I thought were hilarious because I was not about to be scared of somebody like trying to play a prank on me basically. If we were in a different, like in a big city, maybe, you know. So, another good example of that actually is that I had a couple friends who got stalked or like had bad relationships with guys, you know, in high school, and they would come to my house. Like I would like barricade them in my house, okay? And that's not necessarily that all of you guys have that same kind of dharma, but there's that feeling though that people feel of us being safe, that they can like, you know, if you need physical safety, that we're gonna help you with that. Okay, so we can make sure that people don't pull stuff over on us, actually, right? Because of that's not just the smelling the rat thing, which is one of the connections that some of you have and some of you don't have. But still, there's that gate of the taming power of the great or whatever that's part of that smelling the rat connection. I mean, there's a certain ability to just use your sense of people, especially if you have the intuition, to keep yourself and others safe and keep things kind of like smooth and not like going into mental illness areas, right? You know what I'm talking about, like drama stuff.
Mm.
So I think that getting really into that, like really putting some confidence into yourself and really like doing some self-esteem work, like journaling about the awesome part of you, the awesome superhero side of you, okay? I think that we've got to use that ego integrity for good instead of what happens is it gets used against us a lot. And that's not fair. Like, we have a certain amount of, like, superhero power there, you know? So we should be using it to, like, get really excited about ourselves and, like, go forth into the world, you know? So, pump yourself up. Like, do affirmations or whatever in the morning, you know, and journal and stuff. Because you have the willpower, you can actually make anything happen. And we don't have to feel guilty about it. In fact, that's a big thing. I think that some people, you know, nobody in this room, but some people, guilt is actually like a learning tool for, right? Like a little kid who keeps doing the same thing over and over again that they're not supposed to do, that's like something that's not good for them, that's not good for other people, for them to do that. That's like when the parents are trying to guilt them so that they have some feeling of like how they're affecting other people, right? So that's not us. When we have guilt, it's inappropriate. It's not appropriate. Because we're not going to keep doing that same thing over and over again. If we do something that we think affects people badly, we're going to not do it again, man. Right? So that's why we can kind of use our human design to like pump ourselves up a little, you know? Feel good about ourselves. And we don't have to wonder if what we're doing is right either. Because we're not going to do the wrong thing if we know it's the wrong thing. And if you have the intuition in your chart, then you're going to know what's right. So if you don't have the intuition, then you have to go through a little, like if you have the emotional, you have to go through the longer cycle, right, of knowing what's right. But you still end up knowing what's right.
Through the emotions, I think. For me.
Yeah, through the emotions.
Just the
yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
That's where. Well, what you described, it seems like it's like manifester. So what makes a manifester versus?
Well, that's one of the things that I was kind of, that's kind of one of my points actually, is that the ego center has a very manifesterly energy to it. Almost every manifestor I've ever seen has the ego center. I think there was one that didn't. But I haven't seen. And quite often, the people who have ego authority, so the authority is the way you're supposed to make decisions, right? Mine is intuitive. Lauren's is emotional. Ben's is emotional. I don't remember Sherlin's right now. Sacral? Is it sacral?
I don't know.
Or maybe emotional.
It's emotional.
Okay, so
He knows.
Jan's is sacral. She's supposed to do her gut, right?
Mine's ego.
Yours is ego. Awesome. Okay, that's what I was going to say is only manifestors have the ego authority usually. Are you a manifestor?
Mm.
That's what I have noticed. So,
So
that means, so her authority is her ego center. That means she's supposed to make decisions based on that.
The authority is the throat. No, what?
No, the authority is how you make decisions. Like,
But where? What is that? That's the
so
ego.
for you it's emotional.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Authority is just a different part of human design. It's how you make decisions, how you know what your truth is. How do you know what your truth
If the
is?
ego center is 30% and manifestors are 8, what's the difference between?
If the ego is 30%, okay. So if you take everyone's charts, 30% of them have ego definition, no matter whether you're a generator, a projector, or a manifestor. Okay? If you take everyone's charts and you split them up into generator, projector, manifestor, reflector, then something like 7% are manifestors.
I think it's 8. I think
Or
I
8.
looked that
Yeah,
up.
and you get different numbers from different. But
But I just wonder what makes the manifestor different then.
so the manifestor has to have the throat center, for one thing.
Oh, okay. So throat and ego center they have to have.
And they don't, and they also do not have a sacral center.
Okay. Gotcha.
You can have projectors with ego and throat actually, but that's the thing is that there's little rules with this stuff, but you still don't know for sure unless you look them up. I mean, there's like a mysterious way that they determine all this stuff because a projector and manifestor do not have a sacral center. Manifestors and manifesting generators always have a throat center. Projectors could be anything except
Okay.
for not having a
And the
sacral
sacral.
center.
That's weird.
Um,
Wonder what's that sacral center that makes.
the sacral center is about energy and work, and that's only
that's
generators that
okay.
have that. So
Okay,
all the
that's why.
non-energy types don't
Gotcha.
have that.
And is that this part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's definitely like a projector definitely does not have that because they're taking an energy of the whole group. Manifestors aren't taking in energy, but they're creating boundaries all the time, and they're informing people of what's going to happen and telling people what to do. The cool thing about that, you guys, the cool thing about that is that my manifestors that I know are the only people that I would let tell me what to do. Because there's a certain energy where it just like works. It's fine. Like I can tell that it's the right thing to do when they say it. It's fine.
And what is is this in the intuition?
The intuition is the spleen. It's on the left side.
So like,
Yeah, sorry, it's on the right side.
is
Sorry.
it there?
Yeah.
So he's got that. Okay.
So he's an intuitive manifestor. His authority is probably intuitive. Is that true? His authority is splenic?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's supposed to follow his intuition like me.
So he's just got the ego, the intuition, and the throat.
Yeah. So that is like actually exactly the same chart as my friend Carol.
Oh, okay.
And so I'll talk about that later.
He's
But
a manifestor?
Yeah.
So the ego projector driven inner authority, how, like you have that right?
What's that?
Inner authority of ego projector.
so authority of ego for her as a manifestor, she'd only a manifestor would have that. She is going to sense her whether or not things have integrity. And some of it has to do with listening to yourself speak, apparently. Like when you're talking about it to somebody, you have to like talk about it, and then the person can tell you how it sounds, or you can listen to how it sounds. You know,
Yeah,
like
to validate, right?
well, to kind of decide whether it's a good like decision or not when you're making a decision. When you talk and kind of, or maybe journal too, and then kind of like look, like take a, step backwards and then look at it. It's a little bit more abstract than having an intuitive authority, actually, or having an emotional authority, because those are kind of cut and dry in a certain way. Having an emotional authority, you just have to keep waiting through the emotional cycle, then you know it's true. Having an intuitive authority, you just use that intuition, and that's it. You just, what's true in the moment with my intuition right now? Orange. Like it's always like something really weird, like orange circles. Okay, but that after a while it becomes something that you can actually follow because you used to use your intuition so much that it starts to make sense after a while. At first, it's like orange circles or like pink lines or something.
So, like, if you have a sacral authority, then how do you?
You
If you
feel
have a sacral authority, then you go with your gut. Your gut says yes or no, and it's actually really simple, but kind of, it would be annoying for me because you have to kind of like put this in front of you. Do I want this? Yes or no? Do I want this? Yes or no? Like that all the time. Should I do this? Yes or no? Instead of intuitively, it saves me a lot of energy. I go over there right now. Okay. It's I don't have to test everything.
Like
Right.
emotional, we have to wait for 3 days. No, I'm just kidding.
Emotion is really annoying, probably, because you have to
Wow.
wait through the emotional cycle, and you have to like not bet on your emotional high or your emotional low. Okay, I want everybody who's got an ego center now to do a little exercise with me. We're gonna just write a little paragraph about ourselves. Okay, and it's just like the way that you would give like a bio to somebody, or like if you were gonna do a little intro of yourself. Just write a little thing about you, your background, and try to make it sound like you're taking credit. If you want to get a little abstract with the feeling, okay? You're going to take credit, you're going to put your name on it, and say how awesome you are. I'm going to turn off the video.
We draw a picture of ourselves.
Check out my website at www.hillary'selementsofhealth.com.